Hey everyone, so you're probably looking to start using the Black Ops 3 mod tools to make your own custom maps, but you have no idea how to go about that because this tool set is very confusing to you and it's probably overwhelming for you and you have no idea how to do anything and you're looking to give up already probably, right? So I'm going to hopefully help you guys fix that and get you started so that you can start feeling comfortable with the tool set and start feeling like you're learning something and you can actually make your map. Because some of you out there probably have this awesome idea for the next, Ascension or Revelations, but you have no idea how to use this tool set, so the map never gets made. So let's help you fix that. The first thing you're going to do is obviously have the launcher open. Now, you're probably only going to have two map files. MP Combine, which, as you guessed, is probably just Combine, right? And ZM Giant. What else could it be other than the Giant? Anyways, you're probably also going to want to have the dark theme that I have. It's just easier on the eyes. Simply go to Edit, Options, and then use Treyarch Theme. Also, do yourself a favor. Make sure that this is selected to your primary language. I'm American. I speak English, so I have English selected. Don't do all. Please, do not do all until you're ready to publish a map. But we'll get into that when it's time. So for now, English, and then use Treyarch Theme. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and actually make our first map file so we can get started in learning the tools. Now, there are three ways to do this. File, New, and it opens this dialog box up. Or you can hit this little button right there, which kind of makes the file new a little bit redundant. But then you have Control plus N, which makes both of them kind of redundant. So, but I guess it's like a Mexican standoff sort of thing. They're all making each other redundant. I don't know. Either way, majority of you are probably looking to make a zombie map, right? A custom zombie map, not multiplayer. So I'm going to show you the multiplayer, or the zombies front, sorry. But I do want to show you guys this. If you are looking to make a multiplayer map, you have to start the map with MP underscore. Doesn't matter what you're going to call it. You could call it toilet bowl. I don't care. Wow, I can't spell. You call it you know what? You get the point. You can spell it whatever, call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's going to be called when it goes on the workshop when you do publish it. But because we're going to do zombies, we're going to call it ZM underscore, and then the map name, I'm going to call this, user interface tutorial. It would help if I could spell, Jesus. And then I'm going to make sure that this is not multiplayer, but zombies. Now we're going to hit OK, and it's going to create a bunch of files in my C drive that are going to allow me to kind of edit the sound files or images and things like that. Images like loading images and stuff like that, not in map itself, don't worry. But you don't have to worry about any of this right now, okay? This is the least of your concern. Hit OK. And as you can tell, you now have a map file. Where is it? I have so many of these. Where the heck is it? UI tutorial at the very bottom. So, to open it, just do one of two things. Either tick the box right there, click right there, and then hit the Radiant button at the top right there. It'll open it up. Or, other way, right click, open in Radiant. And then just give it a few seconds, or depending on your graphics card, a few minutes. Because depending on your computer specs, it could take a couple of seconds to load, like it does for me. Or it could take a few minutes to load even this basic map file. Now, when you finally do load in, yours will probably look something like this, right? You'll have the entity info, entity browser, the XY top, and the camera. Now, you're realistically, when you're starting off, not going to want to worry about entity info or entity browser too much. Also, make sure you hit the full screen at the top. I know a lot of times it likes to do that. But yeah, for right now, we don't want to worry about entity info or entity browser, so we're going to close both of those out. There's only 4 tabs that you're really going to want to have open when you're first starting making stuff, okay? Which is camera, XY top, which you can just drag over there by, placing your cursor in the middle between the two, and then left click and drag like that. The other 2 we want to have open is going to be models and textures. Now, obviously, you don't see them anywhere here, so how do I open those, right? At the top, you're going to see a bunch of selections. But if you go to the far right, just to the right of the word beams, you'll have this blank open space. Right click. You'll have this drop down menu here. Go all the way down to models. Left click. Boom. You now have a models menu. And the cool thing about Radiant is that you can actually just drag these tabs anywhere. Pretty much like any other engine that you use, really. But you can set up the tabs any way you want them. Just kind of play around with them and figure out where you want them. Personally, I like to have my XY top on the side over here. I like to put my models and everything on the right hand side like that. I also like to have my camera on my second monitor entirely, so I'm going to do that right quick. I'm going to toggle that on so you guys can see that on the video. But then to get textures, same thing. Bang. And then I like to just drag this into models as well, because then I can just toggle between the two. You don't always need both of them up at once. I personally like to have the XY top half of the screen because that's where I work in a lot of time. And then textures and models, I'm obviously just toggling between. Anyways, now that we have our basics set up, let's go ahead and actually learn what all these different buttons do so that you know what you're going to want to have selected and what doesn't really matter right now. So I'm going to go ahead and unselect all of these. Now, let me tell you something. Never unselect the show the 2D grid. Never unselect that, because if it looks like that, it's going to be a problem down the line. I can tell you right now. Make sure you have that selected so that you have these grid lines. Also, make sure you hit the 4 key, because that's going to open up grid size 8, which I'll show you right now. So, this is the grid size menu. It's a little drop down, and basically, it tells you how many boxes you're going to have. So if I switch down here, boom, you're going to have more. If I hit the 2 key, or 1 key, it'll get smaller and bigger. Obviously, if I zoom in, you can see it. And then you can get smaller and smaller with a little tilde key here, but you never really want to go down that small. That's more environment artist that's going to go down there. And then if you're really just kind of doing some polish or detail, you might go down that far. But for the most part, just stick to grid size 8, which is key 4. Now, another big tip I'm going to tell you guys right now. You see this button right here at the top, toggle snap to grid. Make sure it's toggled on, because if it's not, watch this. I'll take this for example, copy and paste that, and then delete it just so I have the sizing. And then I'm going to draw a brush right here. As you can see, it just kind of draws a random brush, right? But if I zoom in, it's not attached to any of these little gray lines. You might think, so what does that matter? Trust me. Just trust me. You want to be able to have all these lines snapping to these grid lines here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to hit snap to grid. Boom. Make sure that's toggled. Now draw the same box, and look at that. It's tailoring itself or sticking itself to these grid lines. Now, obviously, if you want to get maybe the line right there, 3, boom. Now you can drag it out. And then if you hit 4, it's going to be split in the middle. So just kind of play around with that and just kind of play around with the brushes at that point. But for now, we're going to move on. Actually, I'll just kind of leave that there. For now, we're going to move on, though, to the next thing, which is moving the grid. So you have XY top, but you also have XZ front, which is a side angle, which is basically in the grid looking at everything from right here. And then we have YZ side, which is pretty much, if I remember correctly, yeah, it's over here. Yeah. But anyways, that really doesn't matter too much. I mean, you'll know when to go to which one. It's mostly just what you're working on. But you can also do that, and this is important to know, by using the keyboard shortcut Control plus Tab. You can just quickly toggle between all 3 of them. It's that quick. And if you ever want to know what your keybinds are, just go to Settings, Key Bindings, and then you can just go through all of that. But for right now, you probably don't want to worry about too much other than figuring out what the camera is. And you're probably already wondering how I'm moving around. So let me just go ahead and explain that real quickly. So if you hit the Control key and then right click, you can actually start moving around like this. You should be able to just move back and forth, or not back and forth, but left and right like this, up and down, but you can't move forward or backwards. You can, however, if you use the scroll wheel on your mouse. Boom. That simple. If you let go of the control and then move the right button on your mouse, you can look around, but you won't be moving. Same concept with the moving forward and backwards, though. But yeah, just get the hang of that first. That's the first thing you're going to want to get a hang of, because, well, if you don't have the hang of that, it's going to be a little difficult to do a lot of, work in this tool set. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is actually just grabbing something, like a brush, for example. This right here is a brush. And so is that. And so is that and that. You get the point. But yeah, hit Shift, left click, it selects the brush. For right now, that's all we need to worry about for, mapping, because, you don't have to worry about too much. You just want to get the bare basics down. So just, grab that. You can grab that. And then if you go in the 2D grid, also hit Escape to unselect any of them. But if you go in the 2D grid here, we can actually just left click and drag up to extend the brush this way, or same concept this way. You get the point on that as well. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the names. You can toggle that on and it tells you what all these names are. Now, because these are actually prefabs, it's just going to call them MISC prefab. However, if I were to do a stamp of a prefab real quick, it'll tell you all the little, entities within that, like light slight, or is that what it says? Wow, yeah, light slight and script struct, all that. For now, we're just going to undo that because we don't really ever need to break down these prefabs. I'll get into prefabs in a future video, but yeah, that's what names does, is just tells you all the stuff like script struct, whatever the model is, for example. So if I were to go to model browser, throw this in, where'd it go? MISC model, that's all it's going to come up with. You can have that on, you can have that off, doesn't really matter. The next thing though is coordinates. I personally like this on so that I know the size that I'm working with here. You can see it top and bottom, or top and left. The next thing, blocks. I recommend keeping this on because, as you can see, it kind of helps you determine where you are and, all that goodness. So I'd recommend keeping that on. The next thing, connections. This is only really going to tell you what you're already able to see in the camera view here. You can see that this, what is this, a script struct? Yeah, script struct is tethered to another script struct. I'm not going to get into what those are right now, but that's pretty much all that does. You don't have to have it selected if you don't want to, but, it's up to you. The next thing is angles. I haven't really touched angles myself, but all it really does is tell you what direction something's facing, like a prefab, for example, or a model. The next thing is going to be the toggle mouse crosshairs in 2D view. And let me tell you, this is going to end up being a good friend of yours down the line. Let's say, for example, we have two brushes. And by the way I did that, I'll show you that real quickly. Shift left click to select it. Hit Control plus C to copy it, and then Control plus V. You don't even have to let go of the Control. You can just hit Control C, let go of the C, and then hit V. Boom. Then you can just drag that out. You have the same thing. Anyways, let's say, for example, you wanted to match this line right here up with this line right there, right? Well, if it's super far out, like way over here, and, you have to make sure it's all lined up, what are you going to do? Well, you can toggle this, right? Because you know why? Because you can look at this, right? Now you can say, okay, so this is where the line is. Right click, only right click, and then just move your mouse to the left and just keep moving it. And now you can say, okay, so that's where it has to be. Just keep your eye on it or whatever. Boom. Now I can put my crosshair right there, fling it back over, it's aligned. That's why I personally like to have it on, but it's up to you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the rotations. So let's go ahead and place a random model. Let's grab, I don't know, let's grab a couch, because I guess that's a good idea. I guess we're grabbing couches today. Let's grab, that one actually kind of looks nice, I'm not going to lie. I say it looks nice, it's like the worst looking couch possible. Cool, got it. Let me just switch that up because it's going to annoy me. Much better. Anyways, so, same thing with the brushes. Select it like that, and all you have to do to rotate it is one of two things. So if you want to rotate it like 90 degrees or whatever, simply hit Shift plus D, and you can do it as many times as you want to rotate it. Just know that some models will start moving. Like you can see, like it initially started like up here, but then I started doing that, and now it's making its way downtown. Okay, I'm sorry. But yeah, you can do that, or you can simply hit the button up here, rotate the Z. It does the same concept, and then Control plus Z to undo. If you want to flip it another way, though, on the Y-axis, same thing with that. You can bind that to a keybind if you'd like. I personally don't, but it's up to you. And obviously, it tilts the couch. Same concept with the X. Boom. It just flips it around. Let me just fix that. But yeah, just flips it around so you can kind of do that. But you get the point of that. Now, let's say that you want to move an object, right? And you only want it to move on the Y-axis. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and lock it in. Now, there are two ways you can do this. You don't even have to lock it in. You can grab the manipulation handle right here and then just drag it back and forth, right? But if you want to do it in the 2D grid here, you can just simply left click it and drag it. However, make sure you have that lock on the grid because otherwise, it's going for a ride. You can try to be as precise as you want, but it can still move a block or two and screw you up completely. So if you're going to do that, make sure you have that locked in. Same concept goes with the X grid. And then same concept also goes with the Y grid, or the Z grid, sorry. But make sure you're tabbed onto one of the side grids here, because if you're not, well, it's going to be pretty impossible to move it up and down. Anyways, for now, those are probably the bare basics that you're going to need to learn. I would suggest just starting to draw some brushes out, kind of play around with maybe some models or whatever. But also, I highly recommend opening the Document Mod Tools. If you go to your root folder here, and you see this folder called Docs Mod Tools, open that up, okay? Docs Mod Tools, click on that, And then I would go down to Scale Standards, double click that to open it, and boom. You now have all the information that you're going to need. Now, there's a reason why I'm saying this. This is pretty important to do because if you don't know the scale standards, you can mess up a lot for yourself. You don't always have to follow that. Keep this in mind. You don't always have to follow the standards. In some instances, following the standards can and will screw you over, but it's best to always try if you can. Just go through everything, look at everything, and say, like, okay, walls right here. The default wall thickness is actually 8, and the default floor thickness is actually 16. So, for example, let's go into the tool real quick. So if I grab this now, right, you can see I have this, that would be that thin. So yeah, that's the thickness of the wall right there. Oops. That right there is the thickness of the wall. That is an 8-unit thick wall, which is what they want. Now, we obviously have a floor here, and if we go into the side grid here, we can kind of see that that one's actually already at 16, so that's a proper size. So I highly recommend following those standards because they will help you. But yeah, honestly, just play around for right now, get the hang of things, and just kind of understand what your keys are, because what your key binds might be are possibly going to be different than what mine are. Just go to your settings, key bindings and mouse bindings, and just look through everything and just kind of figure things out. But for right now, you're really only going to want to do move like that, move forward and backwards, tilt the camera, and select, and then, you know, probably rotate as well. But yeah, just play around with that and let me know what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section below. If it does help you, please tell me. And if you have any questions or suggestions or anything like that, comment section again. But otherwise, thanks for watching. My name is TJ, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.